Hi everyone, this is 4.4, the Jackson presidency. The objective for today is students will be able to explain how Jackson's policies spoke for the common people but violated Native American rights. So on the left-hand side, you should have Adams versus Jackson, the Indian Removal Act of 1830, states' rights, and new political parties. In 1824, there was the election of Adams versus Jackson. We've seen an election similar to this with Bush versus Gore and Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. Essentially what happened was Andrew Jackson, over here to the right-hand side, won the popular vote. However, Adams won the electoral vote. When this happened, people believed it was a corrupt bargain. They believed that Adams had struck a corrupt bargain and therefore won the presidency. And so Jackson supporters were upset and frustrated and ended up breaking away from the Republican Party and then went back again and reformed the Democratic Republican Party. This led us right into the 1828 election, where we saw changes in voting requirements. Voting requirements had eased, so we saw more and more people being allowed to vote in this election. And Jackson had really appealed to the common people. He had kind of a relaxed atmosphere about him. In some ways, people called him Old Hickory. He was known to be very relatable. People saw him as one of them and not some elitist. And so when he won the presidency, and after he won, he implemented what we call the spoils system. And essentially, he got rid of 10% of the federal government and replaced them with his own friends. Now, although Jackson was extremely popular amongst common people, on the flip side of that, he was also part of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. So the Indian Removal Act of 1830 said that the United States government would pay tribes to move westward. And many tribes did. The Cherokees, however, objected, and they fought back, and they took Jackson to the Supreme Court. And Jackson in the Supreme Court decided that it agreed with the Cherokee Nation, and Jackson decided not to enforce it and ended up forcing the Cherokees westward into what we know of the Trails of Tears. They ended up leaving not long before winter began, so the trip was very dangerous and just in general, but let alone with cold weather moving in. Over a fourth of the Native Americans died in the movement westward. We also saw issues of states' rights coming into play during this time. Remember, we had tariffs against goods in England, and that kind of continued on into this time period as well. And they began to be known as a tariff of abominations. What happened was the South was still struggling a little bit financially, and so they didn't want to have to purchase all these expensive goods from the North. They wanted the ability to purchase goods from England as well. But what ended up happening was they still were forced to purchase these expensive goods, and it made them upset. John C. Calhoun, again, brought up this idea of nullification in saying that if a government failed to let a state nullify a federal law, then the state had ability to withdraw from the Union. South Carolina wanted to nullify the tariff. They didn't want to have to buy these expensive goods. And so the federal government would not let them nullify it. So South Carolina believed that because of that, they had the right to secede from the nation and become independent, because they called these tariffs unconstitutional. Henry Clay ended up developing a compromise where the tariffs would slowly increase over a period of time, so that way it wouldn't be so increasing right away, and therefore making the South and South Carolina a little happier in that issue. After Jackson's presidency, we saw a new political party develop, the Whig Party. These were people that left Jackson's Democratic Party They supported the American system and eventually supported General Harrison. You have a picture of General Harrison here in front of his log cabin. Again, he kind of appealed to this idea of the common people, which is why they were part of Jackson's Democratic Party originally. And he supported the American system of what can we do to make this country better. You know, this idea of nationalism, this idea of putting, more time and energy and resources into our own country and developing our own country. And that's going to be important in the upcoming unit. And that is it for today.